Welcome, one and all, back to the Viper's Nest. I said I'd do another video when Mercenaries for Resident Evil 4 dropped, and here I am, keeping my promise. I've spent about 30 hours with Mercenaries Mode at this point, and I feel like I'm in a good space to talk about it. So, let's get right on into it. Let's get the two obvious negatives out of the way first. No Ada, and no Wesker. Damn shame. From what I understand, they're gonna be releasing those characters along with the Separate Ways DLC campaign, which, you know what, if they're giving those two characters the same amount of attention they gave the 4 characters we already have in the game, I think I'm okay with that. I think it'll be alright. Anyway, I said that's the only 2 negatives of Mercenary Mode, and I pretty much mean it. I can't find really anything to complain about in Mercenaries Mode other than that. All around, it's good. They just took the gameplay of already existing Resident Evil 4 Remake and just made it even better. Alright, that's it. There's my review. Thanks for listening. Nah, I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, and specifically I'm going to talk about the characters. Actually, I suppose I can talk about the levels first. There's 3 of them so far. The village, the castle, and the island, each with their own pros and cons, I guess, their own hazards and stuff. And that's about it. That's all I have to say on the levels. So, let's get to the really interesting part of Mercenaries, the characters and how they play. I guess let's start with the beginning, the very first character you have unlocked. Obviously, it's Leon. Leon is very good in Mercenaries Mode. In fact, all 4 characters in Mercenaries Mode are good in their own way. There's no bad characters here. So let's dive a little bit deeper. So, starting off, Leon has access to his starting pistol, the semi-automatic sniper rifle, I think it's called the Stingray in this game, and the riot gun. So Leon is a very, I guess, versatile Mercenaries character. He has no real particular strengths or weaknesses. He's good at all ranges. He comes very well equipped with quite a few combat options. So he's a very middle-of-the-road character, and if you played through the campaign of Resident Evil 4 before playing Mercenaries, which I think you should, you had to back in the day to actually unlock Mercenaries Mode, so at this point you should already be fairly good at playing Leon. But it gets a little bit more interesting from there. So each character has access to what is called Mayhem Mode. And it's a meter that slowly charges up on its own, or you can charge it faster by, scoring kills, which is kind of the entire point of Mercenaries Mode. Get as many kills as you can and either kill all the available enemies, or kill as many as you can before the time on the stage runs out. That's the gameplay loop of Mercenaries Mode. Occasionally, they'll throw mini-bosses at you that are worth more points and more time if you kill them. You gain more time by picking up the time extension orbs, or by getting melee attacks, which don't give you all that much. I think you get 2 seconds per melee kill, and 4 if you do a knife execution. So, Leon's Mayhem Mode, it's very reminiscent of Chris's Onslaught mode from Resident Evil Village Mercenaries. Essentially, Leon deals more damage and moves faster for the duration of the Mayhem mode. And a lot of people that have been watching seem to think Leon is quote-unquote the worst character in the game. And I guess maybe, kind of, I don't necessarily know if I agree with that, because I got an S rank on my first run through the village with Leon, so I don't think he's at all a bad character. So, here's how I play Leon. Obviously, shoot for the head, get those melee attacks in, charge up your mayhem meter. I usually reserve Leon's Mayhem Mode for either when I'm getting completely overwhelmed by a crowd or when a mini-boss shows up. So, essentially what I do is, when I go into Mayhem Mode, I will pull out the pistol, and I will just go for headshots, because I think until very late in the stage, if Leon's in Mayhem Mode and scores a headshot with a pistol, it's either an insta-kill or it sends someone into Las Plaga Mode, in which case it takes another 1 or 2 headshots to put them down. And Leon's pistol is very, very good, so as long as you're decent at playing the game, which you should be if you played all the way through the main story mode, you'll be getting those headshot modes no problem. And if absolutely necessary, like if Dr. Salvador is right up on your ass, you can pull out the shotgun and just unload into his face while in mayhem mode. It'll put him down easy peasy. The only thing I haven't really found much of a use for in Mercenaries mode is Leon's sniper rifle. I think I've used it maybe 3 or 4 times. I think like specifically on the village level where someone might be standing on a roof like shooting crossbows at you. Other than that though, I think it's still a feature in the game that if you drop or discard one of your mercenaries weapons, then the enemies will also stop dropping ammo for that weapon, which means more ammo for your pistol and your shotgun. I haven't really done that yet with Leon because I like to keep all of Leon's options open. So all in all, Leon, very good starting character, very balanced. You can probably, with a bit of practice, easily get S or S plus rank on any stage with Leon, I think. I haven't scored an S plus plus rank yet, but it's on my to-do list. So anyway, you get an S rank with Leon, you'll unlock the next stage and also the next character, which is Luis. So Luis is tied with the 4th survivor, I think, for probably the hardest character to use in Mercenaries mode. So starting out, Luis has the Red 9 pistol and the bolt-action sniper rifle. He also moves the slowest out of all of the playable characters, and his melee skills aren't all that great. Luis, to me, is a character that demands a very high degree of precision because both the Red 9 and the bolt-action rifle have some pretty lengthy reload animations, but if you score headshots with them, as you should, they do some pretty good damage to hold their own, and that's a good thing because I've noticed with Luis, ammo drops are a lot less than what you get with the other characters, except maybe the 3rd playable character, but you gotta make every single shot with Luis count. But Luis's mayhem mode is probably in the running for like best in the entire game. So when Luis goes into mayhem mode, he gains the ability to plant a bundle of dynamite, which detonates, I think, after 5 seconds, or if you shoot it with one of your guns. So Luis's mayhem mode gives him like probably unparalleled crowd control ability if you place your dynamite properly. It's also the mayhem mode that charges up the quickest, from my experience. So you'll go into mayhem mode, plant your 3 bundles of dynamite. That's the most I was able to get out without prematurely detonating the dynamite with a gunshot. And that's big damage over wide area each and every time. And then it doesn't take him all that long to get mayhem mode back, which is wonderful. But Luis's mayhem mode, while it's probably his greatest strength, can also kind of be a weakness if you're one of the players who is concerned with keeping your combo going, which I'm not, at least not yet. I'm not quite that good at Mercenaries mode. I mostly focus on staying alive and hopefully killing all of the required enemies on the stage and just ending it that way. But if you go after the combos, Luis can kind of make it hard because if you plant your dynamite too well and you wipe out like all of the enemies that are on the stage, you might end up dropping your combo while you're running around looking for more enemies or waiting for more enemies to spawn. It's kind of a double-edged sword unless you're like me and as of yet don't really care about keeping your combo going. It is what it is. All in all, Luis, pretty good character. Probably the hardest in the game to use, maybe. But the next unlockable character is Krauser. Oh boy, Krauser. Krauser is a lot of fun. So Krauser is he's the close quarters guy. He does have a ranged option. It's not the best ranged option though. So Krauser comes equipped with, I think, an unupgraded TMP, his bow and arrow, which fires explosive arrows, and his knife, which I'm 99% sure in Mercenaries mode is unbreakable. Like, I haven't tried parrying a chainsaw with it yet, so I don't know. I might go do that later. But I've been able to go through the entire stage, killing all the required enemies without breaking Krauser's knife, while also using Krauser's knife like a lot. So Krauser's knife is by far his most important tool here. He has the best like standing R2 melee attacks in the game. They hit hard, they have wide reach, but if you go into aim mode with left bumper, Krauser gains the ability to essentially like dash in pretty much any direction, to the point where you can actually wave dash in this game with Krauser, which gives him an insane amount of mobility. Like, just wave dashing across a stage, Krauser can get to where he wants to go easy peasy, no problem. And also his melee, his knife attacks in aim mode, they don't hit as wide an area as they do if you just hit R2, but they're much, much faster. And also, when you're in knife combo mode, Krauser gains super armor against pretty much, I think, all attacks except for instant kill attacks like the chainsaw. And that can also be trouble. If you get tunnel vision with Krauser and you go into a crowd going ham with the knife mode, and you're taking attacks and Krauser isn't flinching, so you might not notice that you're taking attacks, you can very easily get swarmed and just dogpiled on and killed off that way. But as long as you're paying attention to your surroundings while you're knife comboing with Krauser, you'll pretty much be unstoppable. Like, if you see an instant kill attack coming, you can just knife combo and then hit left or right on the D-pad, and Krauser will dash his way out of the way of that attack. It's really fucking cool. So, Krauser's Mayhem mode causes him to pop out his mutant arms and gain just massive, massive melee damage. It does slow down his movement speed a lot, but if you're doing the knife thing and you're already in a crowd, it probably doesn't fucking matter that he moves slow, because you'll be able to just wipe out everyone around you using the basic R2 attack. You can also go into aim mode with left bumper or left trigger, and Krauser will execute what's called a stinger, which is a wonderful Devil May Cry reference. It eats up a lot of his meter, but it causes him to do an invincible charge forward and big stab with the blade arm, kind of like he did back in OG Mercenaries, and pretty much one-shot anything in his path while he does that. Yeah, Krauser's probably the one I've played the most next to the one we're going to talk about next, but Krauser is just a lot of fun. It's not a stressful kind, like, I say stressful, I mean stressful in a good way. Like, when you're playing as Luis or Leon, and you're going, like, your heart's going to be pumping, your palms are going to be sweating, but if you just want to go into a game and just wreck everything on a stage without breaking a sweat, Krauser's definitely the one for you. And now we get to my favorite Mercenaries playable character, my boy, my dog, good old Hunk himself. So, I feel the need to talk a little bit now about OG Resident Evil 4 to really make you understand why I love Hunk so much. So, back in original Resident Evil 4 Mercenaries, Hunk was by far the hardest character to play in the game. He only had his custom TMP, some grenades, and no knife. Hunk was the only one in the game who did not have a knife, which meant if you want to set up melee attacks, you have to expend grenades or ammunition out of your TMP to do it. But Hunk has the best melee attack in the entire game. It's called the Neck Breaker, and it does exactly what you expect it does. Hunk goes behind someone and snaps their neck. It's an insta-kill on any enemy susceptible to it, and it does not trigger a Plaga explosion. If I remember correctly, there was two, maybe three characters in all of Mercenaries that were not susceptible to Hunk's Neckbreaker. I believe they were Super Salvador, the Gatling Gun Ganado, and maybe regular Dr. Salvador wasn't susceptible to the neck break. I don't remember. It's been over 10 years since I played original Resident Evil 4, so I could be wrong, but I do know there were some enemies that were not susceptible to the neck breaker. That's not the case in Resident Evil 4 Remake, but I will come back to that. So, the way I played Hunk, and I think the way a lot of other people played Hunk, Like, once you figure out how Hunk works, he's absolutely fucking unstoppable. So instead of, like, hitting the headshots and doing the neck breaker, which is the obvious thing, you would instead go for leg shots and execute Hunk's riot kick. And here's why. So in both OG Resi 4 and Remake, Hunk's neckbreaker has a pretty hefty animation commitment. Like, you'll get the kill, you'll get the bonus 2 seconds off of that melee kill, but you end up losing a little bit more than you gain because the neckbreaker has a pretty lengthy animation. But Hunk's riot kick is very, very good for crowd control and could kill multiple Ganados in one go. And if they don't die, then they are at least blown back, which gives Hunk some more room to set up his next melee attacks. What you would do, what I did, is you ran around, very carefully set up leg shots, did the riot kick, wiped out multiple Ganados per kick, rinsed, repeated, all the while waiting for them to drop more TMP ammo and more grenades. And then if, like, the Bella Sisters or any other mini-boss that was susceptible to the neckbreaker showed up, hit him with a flash grenade, do the neck break, move on, rinse, repeat, and do it that way. Playing like that, I don't know if it was the most optimal play style, but it was the one that I did, which is also the play style that got me, like, the highest rank on all of Hunk's mercenary stages, because it was just that fucking powerful. So, moving back on over into Resident Evil 4 Remake, Hunk is still the most overpowered character in the entire game. This time he has a knife, though, which is good because, the new parry mechanic is a thing. So in new Resi 4, Hunk has the submachine gun, grenades, and the knife. And also his neckbreaker comes back, and I was playing just a little bit today, and I did confirm that unless they're already Plaga-headed, there is no enemy in the current iteration of Mercenaries Mode that is not susceptible to Hunk's neckbreaker attack. So the Bella Sisters, Dr. Salvador, other mini-boss characters like the pig-headed dudes that showed up, all of them can be neck broken. So how I play this time is also very reminiscent of how I played back then. Run around, carefully line up the leg shots, do the kick attacks or the Assassin's Creed Hidden Blade. Hunk has that now from the other games, which is fucking awesome. And if I can, do the downed or like stealth executions with the knife. Hunk only has a boot knife starting off, but there's a chance that enemies will drop more knives for Hunk to use, so that's good. So then, like when Dr. Salvador, the Bella Sisters, Pighead guy, any of those guys show up, instant flash grenade, neck breaker, rinse repeat, you will wind up with so much extra time playing this way as Hunk. And that's not all. Hunk's Mayhem mode is by far the best in the fucking game, in my opinion. It temporarily, for the duration, gives Hunk's submachine gun unlimited ammunition. So if you don't, like if you're surrounded by a big crowd or a boss character shows up and you're not quite comfortable getting close for a neck breaker because maybe you don't have a flash grenade and you don't want to take the risk of trying to set up the neck breaker with gunfire, you just pop Mayhem mode and just mow everybody down. And also, Mayhem mode kills count towards more time on the timer for you to be running around in Mercenaries mode. So you wait for a big crowd, pop Mayhem mode with Hunk, mow them all down with the machine gun. That's even more time on the clock. I think on the village, I wound up with like somewhere between like 6 and 7 extra minutes on the clock by the time I finished killing off all 150 enemies. Hunk is absolute chef's kiss in Mercenary mode. It's so good to see him back, true to form, being the most fucking broken character in the game. Probably until Wesker shows up. Wesker in OG Resi 4 was pretty damn good, but he didn't reach the levels of broken that you could get with Hunk. And as much as I love Wesker, I hope he's not as broken as Hunk when he gets released. I hope he's ludicrously powerful, but just not quite as powerful as Hunk. Hunk deserves to be on top of the pile once again, and I'm so happy that he is. Just, it's an absolute joy to play as Hunk in this game, once you figure out what you're doing with him. Because you still got to be careful. Again, if you get tunnel vision, if you go too ham with the machine gun, someone might sneak up behind you and get you in the back with a chainsaw. It's happened to me multiple times because I've mentioned it before, I tend to play with the volume pretty low, so, if like my son wakes up from his nap or something like that, I can hear him, go get him. I don't play with the volume cranked up, so 9 times out of 10 I don't hear the chainsaw coming. I gotta Gotta keep an eye on that indicator that lets you know that there's a mini-boss on the stage. All around, though, other than missing Ada and Hunk, Mercenaries Mode, it's fucking great, man. I love it. I've been having such a blast playing Mercenaries Mode. I highly recommend you give it a chance. It's free, and also, if you S-rank all stages, you unlock the hand cannon for the main game, which I don't know how I feel about that. I love the hand cannon, but also I know it's been a little bit nerfed from its Resi 4 incarnation. And also, it was a lot easier to unlock, although maybe that's just because I'm better at the game now than I was back then, but if I remember Resident Evil 4 original correctly, didn't you have to, like, S-rank or 5-star or whatever all the stages with all the characters to unlock the hand cannon? I don't remember. And I don't feel like looking it up. I have other things to do today. Point is, I am so happy Mercenaries Mode's back. It's great, it's fun, and more to the point, you can, it's one of those game modes you can just pick up and play for a minute and then set it down again and bugger off to do something else, which is nice. That's what I originally used original Resi 4 Mercenaries Mode for, is I need a fucking break from my homework for a minute. I'm gonna go do a Mercenaries run and then come back to it. It's short, it's sweet, fun to play, all around, great fucking game mode. Happy to have it back. And that puts us at just over 20 minutes, so I'm going to stop here. Thank you very much for watching. A like and a subscribe and a comment would be appreciated. As always, see you next time, and have a wonderful day.